Hey, it's the Bradcast, and I am here with Zackary Marois. Hello, Zackary.
Hello, man. What's up?
Not much. Happy Sunday.
Thank you, man.
I see you are busy at work, putting in some drawing time in.
Yeah, I just what is that? I finished up some roughs for this page, and I finished one page last night, so got to start another one.
Okay, so are you are in the depths of Sonderon's adventure?
Yep. Right now, I'm penciling page 12, and or just started it. So, um, I've been doing a lot of work trying to get a lot of these pages done, so I can send it off to the rest of the team to get it finished up.
Okay, so it's a big team effort. These books that you've been working on.
For this one, yes. For the last one, not so much. I had a smaller group.
I see. Okay. I know this is your third book. How long have you been a comic book artist?
I would have to say for about like 3 years. And I wouldn't even use that term comic book artist quite yet because I'm still trying to find my foot through the door. So yeah, I wouldn't even call myself.
You don't have to. You don't. I didn't say you were a professional.
Yeah. Right.
But if you're drawing and you're drawing a comic book, you're a comic book artist. So
Yeah.
we don't make a huge distinction. In my business, it's the difference between being something and being a professional something is whether or not you actually get paid for it.
Yep.
So how did you get started drawing?
Man, I mean, to put it simply, when I got my GED at Job Corps when I was 18, I started taking art seriously. And at that point, I was drawing mediocre stuff, mediocre comics, and taking that to a show. And then I wanted to go to the Cubert School during the summertime. So at one of the conventions in the summer, somebody from the school went up to my booth and said that, they took summer course classes. So I was like, I couldn't afford it. And so I asked my mother, and to make a long story short, I ended up going to the Cooper School. So I ditched everything I was doing at that point and then just restarted, breaking down the foundations of everything that I was doing just to learn how to draw.
Okay. Now, I mean, did you always like to draw when you were a kid? Did you doodle? Did you draw on the inside of books and make animations so when you flip the pages?
Actually,
a lot of people did that.
I did like to draw. I did like to doodle a lot. If anything, I used to like creating my characters. Like, I used to love character creation. I would just come up with the most... And there was no rhyme or reason. I would come up with stupid names. Like, one of the characters was like Scrag Show. One of my earliest stuff from like 5th grade. Scrag Show, right? And there was like no reason as to why that name was there. It was just like, okay, I did a drawing of this weird character and that's his name. So I did a lot of that kind of stuff. Was just like character creation, a lot of doodles, copying images that were already made from Marvel and DC comics, and just be like, wait, look at my drawings. But yeah, it wasn't until I was 18, and I was like, you know what, I want to actually become an artist. And I think honestly, in 5th grade, when I picked up my first comic book, then I read that book like 20 times that same day. That's when I realized, I was like, if I'm going to be anything in life, I'm going to be a comic book artist.
So, but it seems like you also wear the writer's hat here a little bit, don't you?
I do.
I mean, because that's a big deal. You can write you can write stories about other people's characters and be in the business and get paid, right? I mean, the drawing part is very competitive, and not everybody can write a story that people want to read or see illustrated. So if you can I know that you've been doing that, but I mean, you're on a big team, and I guess your team came from your schooling, right?
Yeah, everybody that I include into my stuff, that anything I do, I prefer to be working with the people that I was sitting next to in class, or people that were involved in the school in some type of way. Because I don't know, it's just more of a community connection with that, because we went through the same program, and if we went, we graduated from that, we're doing our own, we're still doing whatever we are doing instead of giving it up. Those are the kind of people I like to
Okay.
stick with and just keep. If I'm working on anything, I like to have them participate in it if they're interested.
So were you, I know you have you have an IRL in the background, which we don't have to go into, but have you made enough money on the other, on your other comic book endeavors to give you real hope? I mean, have you gotten good reactions? Do you have people following after you, want to know, hey, when's the next book? Because I mean, your main guy, your Purple Wonder, and his what is it, six-eyed pet? I can't recall his name. Sandaran is a very interesting character that you've drawn. And he seems like he's a little unusual for the genre. Can you tell us about him?
Oh, dude, I'd love to, man. Uh, okay, so the first when I got out of school, I've had this character, Sondaron, before he was like the name Sondaron. His original name was Khonshu, and I had that like when I got in school. Like I had this character even way before that, like in middle school. But if I was gonna work on any series, I wanted to like perfect that one thing I had.
Sure.
And then my writing wasn't fully done for it. Like I knew what I wanted, but I couldn't word it correctly. I didn't know how to. I wasn't a writer. Like I know what I can visualize, but I didn't know how to explain it. And the other dude that's part of this book, Brett Melograno, this man is amazing. Like this man is born to be a writer. And I had a serious talk with him. I'm like, hey, you should write this series with me. Like, become the writer. And, he agreed to do so. And because of that, he's a co-creator. Because it's not just the artwork and some of the basic stuff for a character that, makes that individual working on it as a creator. Anybody who adds into it is also a creator of that product as well. So when I got out of school, I launched Voyage to the Call. That campaign was $5,000, and it was just me and a couple other people that funded. And then the second campaign I launched a year after that, I think a year and a half or a year after, it was Voyage Melting Pot, and that was a 200-page anthology book. And that one didn't work out because the goal was like $24,000, and I had about 20 plus artists on it. So I was including, talent costs on top of like, product shipment, all the work. So there was a lot of factors as to why that didn't fund, but I didn't give up on it because a lot of people that followed Voyage the Call from the first campaign to the potential possibility of the second book, they wanted this character to come back. I mean, some of the surveys that I've read was like, this character is unique. They really love the idea. They want to see this character just come out in his own series. So I didn't want to do one-shots anymore, anthologies. It's just going to be first issue, ongoing from here on out. So this campaign this one is very unique to me than the previous ones I've done.
Because your focus has changed.
Exactly.
Okay, so then let me ask you, is this then a episode 2 from the, what is it? Tell me again, Voyager's Call?
Okay, so
I mean, where does it fit? Is it just, I mean, just pluck them out of the universe and start following them now with some backhanded references back to the episode, the series 1 book? Or because the anthology, I probably would, you have a lot of things there. I would maybe release them as mini books and try to get people to read all the little books first and then come out with an anthology. But, you're still learning. I'm not, I'm not throwing shade. I just want,
oh no,
my thought is those, there's 200. You have 200 pages of ideas. You've got you've got a first series going, and you should really, in my opinion, go for something like that. Have you thought about that at all?
I respect that, man. Like, there's logic to this madness.
Yeah.
When I was in the school, during my second year, because anybody who's a creator who creates anything, they're so busy focusing so much detail on what's their beginning, what's the
Mhm.
origin, and they have a necessary to need to them to start there. Like that's their starting point. And there was a teacher named Max Fuchs. And I was talking about, I can't wait till I get out of school and work on Voyage because this was the book I can't wait. And the writing wasn't fully finished on the origin. I still was trying to figure all that stuff out. And he goes, well, why do you have to wait till you get out of school? Why can't you just make it now? And as basic and straightforward as that was, I dismissed it in class when he said it. But when I got back to the mansion, the Cuber School mansion, where the Cuber School used to be before they switched over to the old school down the street. I was sitting in my dorm room, and I'm just like, he's right. And I was like, well, I don't know how to work on the origin yet. And I said, screw it. I'm going to pick an adventure that I like and just write on that. And that's what I started doing. But all the other guys that was, part of my year and a couple other, first years or third year students, I was like, I'm going to include them in it as well. So why am I going to just do this by myself? So I started working on designing Voyage Anthology Volume 1. It was an 88 pager, and I just started grabbing as many students as I could. The hardest part was, because we were all current students, some of them didn't believe that this book was happening, and others did, but it was very few. So I had to keep pushing and grinding, be like, hey, where's that stuff? Where's all that going on? But I focused on something that I wanted to do for fun with this character instead of, starting from the beginning. So that really gave me hope. I mean, Adam Kubert did a piece for the first anthology, and I just asked him. No, I stand corrected. He asked me randomly in the middle of the summer when I was like, cleaning up the Kubert school for the maintenance, and he's like, hey, how you doing? And I started talking about the book, and, to make a long story short, he goes, was there anything I can do for it? I was like, what? So he did a Sonderon pinup, and that gave everyone like the official
More
stamp, like,
motivation.
this is happening. Yep. And so when I got out of the school, I wanted to expand on that, but I didn't want to start from the beginning yet. So Voyage the Call was a one-shot adventure of something that he was doing like later on down in the story. But these books are still relevant because now that I'm working on Voyage Issue 1, that ongoing series, the way Voyage the Call, that book fits in between like issues 2 and 3 or 3 and 4. In Voyage Anthology, that story is actually part of the second story arc. So somewhere in between issues 6 through 8, 6 through 9. Sure. Because the way that I'm going to write these story arcs, I'm going to do issues 1 through 6 is the first story arc, like graphic novels for DC.
Yeah.
So issues 6 through 12, Sonderon takes on the Galactic Mafia, which I call them the Dixarian Mob. So that story in the anthology book was him taking on one of the operations that the Dixarian Mob was doing. So I was like, this book is going to fit in canon somewhere between here. Voyage of the Call is going to fit somewhere between issues 2 and 3 or 3 and 4. And then issue 1 is going to have a bonus story that will expand somewhere in between that stuff. So it's all relevant. And the reason why it works without having it to fall confusing is he's an alien who space travels. So time is just, but a construct. Like, it can all happen wherever, and whoever he meets along the way, different characters from, different creators and whatnot, it's relevant because he's a traveling alien. So,
all right. So this what you're describing now is your Kickstarter. Is that right?
Yes, Voyage.
Okay. So tell us about the Kickstarter, and just if you can, we'll put it in the comments. But if you want to mention if it has an easy address for people to look up while they're listening to the show. Do you have the URL handy that you can do a shout out, and then we can talk about the Kickstarter?
Yeah, I have the URL. I got to copy and paste it into the thing, so
Yeah. Okay.
I can email it. And then it's just Voyage. Like, you just type in Voyage on Kickstarter, and you'll see the thumbnail. It's got a very unique thumbnail where you see him like this purple alien in the foreground. You can't miss it. But it's there. Right now it's in pre-launch for anyone that's listening, so it's going to launch May 1st. So anybody who there's early grab backs and stuff, so people who will sign up now will get a chance for the first 6 hours of like some special stuff, because I offer a lot for these tiers. And
I just, let me interrupt you. I just found it real quick. After kickstarter.com/projects/voyage the call, the letter or the numeral 1 book 22/voyage-0, and that will take them to the Kickstarter page, the pre-launch page that you described, and you can see just a blurb picture of issue 1, Principium, and our good friend Sandaran is mugging for the camera with some blaster fire behind him. He seems like he's having I don't know, I can't quite tell what's going on behind him, but there's some good explosions in the room.
I've always been a huge fan of having their cover pick a moment in a comic. If I'm ever working on a comic, I'll pick a certain event that's happening in that book, and I'm going to do a cover on it. That's just like a choice that I want to do for my series. For the variants, I'll do some like random stuff and whatever, but the main covers will always have an event from the book. But Voyage issue 1, this takes place where Sandaran just got exiled out of a star system. So everything he learned being in his own system, was child's play compared to the outside real world. So imagine like, your own kid, he thinks he knows, or he or she acts like they know everything, the ins and outs of life. And then next thing you know, they leave your house, they move out into the real world, into their apartment, and they have to relearn everything that they thought they knew. So Sandaran is in that moment, and because he's the first Cometan, his first species to ever leave his star system, there's a lot of xenophobia because his species is tied into this very ancient religion that people think it's just wives' tales and folklore and whatnot, but it's farther from the truth.
Okay.
So he has this quest where he's got to find these pieces called the Spear and Nod. And once he finds all these species, he unites the universe once again. So it's all fractured and hellbent. And so he's going to be... There's a lot in the first issue, because the first story is 32 pages. Like, I'm going to hit the reader with everything that I got. Like, there's no human in this issue at all whatsoever. Imagine watching Predator with no humans, and the main character is Predator, doing whatever, because the Predator culture is a lot, and they do so much within that. So imagine it'd be cool if the camera was on them.
All right. So I am going to share my screen for just a second. Nope, it's disabled. All right, never mind, Denver. Thank you. I was going to I'm gonna save this off for him. That's fine. I was gonna put the blurb, the cover shot on the screen, so that if this goes to YouTube instead of SoundCloud, people will be able to see it. At any rate, so we did touch on this briefly when the first time we talked about having an alien adventure where there's no human beings. And I think that, historically, my recollection is nobody is necessarily an alien because they're all aliens, right? The concept of an alien is, human-centric or Earth-centric. We use that term to describe people who aren't from around here. In this particular case would be our planet. But I think that it's interesting that you've made him a loner from his star system, and the only person that anybody in his area knows that he's leaving. So he is, in fact, alien to the rest of the universe. But once he's out there, he's like everybody else. He is a so-and-so from somewhere, right? Which,
Right.
which, if I'm understanding you correctly, all the characters are so-and-so from somewhere, and the term alien isn't used at all, right?
It's not, but we're all comic book fans. So whenever we read a comic book that, from the past, even to now, I mean, let's be honest, like the main characters are always humans. I mean, I agree with like your description of explaining all that, but their physical appearance was just human. There was nothing, really different to make them different than an actual human on Earth. So the closest recently, there was a book done by Sumei Kesjin, and it was called Voyage Is by Image, and this was the first time that I seen the main character be a legitimate alien, and I was like, this is awesome, and the book was great, and there was a lot of positive feedback. A lot the comic book fandom really loved it. But outside of that book, Martian Manhunter is a superhero,
Right?
and I feel personally that they always undermine that character in the DC world. He's always like second to best, or and I the only time I got to see Martian Manhunter shine was in that series Tom Mandrake did in the 90s with John Ostrander, and that cartoon, with Justice League, Justice League Unlimited, where Martian Manhunter was part of that seven, and he was treated like really well as a character. So again, it's superhero genre, and outside of like the Marvel DC companies,
Right.
the only other character I could think of was Zen Intergalactic Ninja.
Oh, right. Okay.
So it's very scarce. So I want to bring that back a little bit, just to bring a sci-fi book up to the table and be like, hey, I got something new and unique.
Okay. And so, and at this point, as just the manager in me is going to ask you, how's the rest of the team reacting? Are you able to keep motivation high? I mean, I'm sure they're all committed. They know you've done Kickstarters before. This is a manageable size project. It's a decent sized book. There's no reason to believe that it will be just as successful as your first endeavor, or perhaps more so, because all of those people are going to want the next book, right?
Right.
So, I mean, do you have contingency plans? I know it sounds like I'm asking you because this is a business, right?
It is.
For you. You're starting a business. So have you looked at it from that standpoint? Is everybody maintaining their enthusiasm, or is it just you?
We treat everything, like a job.
Okay.
Obviously because we're artists, we have that emotional stake in it a little bit, and I gotta learn. I'm still learning how to separate it completely and just treat it like this is just work, and if the project fails, like no harm done. So my plan B is to relaunch it if it doesn't work the first time, because I'm not giving up on this. I have to, I got to get this, because I have a kid on the way. It's expected in August, the end of August. So one thing I want, thank you. One thing I want is to have my kid, like once it's born, like this issue's done before my child is born.
Sure.
Because I don't know, there's a little bit of an emotion between it, because if it's a boy, my child's name will be the same as my character.
I'm not sure how does the child's mother think about that?
She thinks it's great. Like,
Okay.
she loves it, because it's one of those things where before I even, knew the fact that she was pregnant, I looked at, I was working on this character for a good portion of my life, so this character in its series is pretty much my child, work
Yeah.
child. And then now that I got an actual child, I want to integrate that
Sure.
for them. And when they get older, they're probably going to, because we all know young kids are always, thinking about things that we never even think of,
Right.
just ask random stuff and whatnot. So they're probably going to wonder, like, why is, my parent not spending enough time with me, or, who knows? But I want them to realize that, like, I named them something that I love doing for actual work. So that connection that I'll always care about them when it,
All right.
get older, like there's that connection.
So Zachary, tell me, you've been doing this since you were a kid. Who was your inspiration? Who are the artists that you think you follow in their footsteps, even as like mentors, just in your mind?
Todd McFarlane was one. He was one of my
Sure.
earliest ones, because my Amazing Spider-Man run that I was reading, it was my first titles that I was picking up. So the Todd McFarlane stuff in the middle just really caught my eye. So he was one. The second one, man, when I got into the Cuba School, that's when I had my eye out to all these artists. The second one, it's got to be Wally Wood. Third one was Mark Schultz, who's done Xenophobic Tales. And I think the last one, it's got to be, what's his name? Warren Brown. He's done Ultra Mega, which is a
Oh, okay.
big hit. So his stuff really grabs me. So yeah, those artists.
Is there just for the fans until the Kickstarter comes out? Is there any place the fans can follow you on social media, Facebook or Twitter or Instagram?
So for TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, it's the same. It's all lowercase. It's Zackary's Art.
Okay.
All one word. And then for Facebook, it's Zackary Marois. And also Dwarstar Comics is on Facebook too.
Okay.
And then
So
think that's
you know what? I meant to ask you, where did you come up with Dwarf Star?
so I was part of another brand. It didn't really work out. So the falling out of that, it put me in a spot where I was like, what am I gonna do? Like, so I rebranded myself, but I couldn't figure out the name. So I was thinking about a bunch of space stuff and just the concept, like a company that can give hope and unique storytelling tales, like basic stuff. So I started playing around with the words, and a couple roommates and people that I knew in the Cuba School were also pitching in, and then it
Okay.
got together like Dwarstar Comics.
All right. Have you ever seen the British sci-fi series Red Dwarf?
No.
Okay, you need to check it out, because when I first read it and when you just said it, that flashes that flashed to mind. It is really I believe the term is eclectic and kind of sci-fi humorous in a Monty Python type of style, because it's probably 30, 40 years old, but you'll like it. I think you'll like it because of Sandran's backstory.
I
They're
definitely got to.
kind of, yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's a little out there, but it's independent guys that don't really care about what's going on. They're doing their own thing. I think you'll like it.
I was a huge fan of that Enemy Mine, which was a sci-fi movie in the 80s.
Oh, sure.
And then what do you call it? That show, Resident Alien. That was a pretty decent show.
Okay.
So I like that the weirdness to all that stuff. I mean, even like weird stuff like Splinter, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, like I love all that weird stuff. So sci-fi has really grabbed me, like sci-fi and horror. I used to love superheroes, I still do, but I'm fatigued out. And going into school, I really started delving into the sci-fi and horror stuff, and I was just amazed at some of the stories that were told by like these legend artists. So it really pushed it further.
Do you have a prospective opening launch date for the Kickstarter?
May 1st is for the first issue.
Okay.
That's gonna go until the end of May. The goal is $10,000 because this is a 48-page comic. Like I said earlier in the
Right.
chat, the first story is 32 pages. The backup story is 8 pages. And then there's pinups and other bonus stuff that I included into this issue as well. So
Okay.
a lot of people are going to get... for this first issue, it's got to be a little bit of an oversize because issues 2 forward are going to be the standard 20 or 24, 22. The first issue, I'm trying to make a big bang out of it. So
Sure.
that's why I made it that long.
All right. Fair enough. So let's see. I think we've covered pretty much everything. We've got your origin. We've got Sandran's origin. We've got what the future holds. You have anything else you want to tell our listeners?
Anyone who's listening, the fact that you guys are listening, and if it piques your interest, like, I'm really excited because just even talking about this character, to a bunch of random people, it gets me really excited because that's a potential fan, to get them hooked into it. So, if you're listening out there, thank you. I hope this book thrills you like it does for me.
All right. Well, very good. Thank you, Zach. I appreciate you reaching out, and it was a nice time talking to you. If you want to do me a favor and send me an email when it does start, if it does, just so I know and I can mention it the next time I'm on air, and maybe we can help you be successful, and we'll look forward to more books in the future for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll actually, the day before launch, I'll send an email to you.
That'd be great. All right. Well, I guess we will talk to you again and have fun drawing today.
Thank you. It's going to be a long day.
All right. Take care.
You too, man. Thanks.
Sure. Bye-bye.